Tonight on Nova Legends podcast, I have South Lakes forward Merrick Rillstone, who's really become a force this season for the defending champion Seahawks. Uh, really making that paint his own. It's been a great player to watch. Merrick is from New Zealand. This is his second year playing for South Lakes. In his first year, won a state championship, and now is taking on a much bigger role with this team. Merrick, nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
Oh, of course. So, as I mentioned earlier, you know, your South Lakes defending champion is 10-2 this year, led by Jordan Scott, who's going to Michigan State next year. But you had some kids graduate last year, and you had some kids transfer, including Solvita.
Yeah.
And you guys have been really able to keep the momentum going. Losses only to Hayfield and a very tough Largo team. And you
Yeah.
got a win over in a Christmas tournament and wins over Woodson, Patriot, and a tough Maury game. So the season's been going well. But I thought we'd start by talking about New Zealand basketball.
Yeah.
I know basketball, and I know rugby is the number one sport. The
Yeah.
blacks there, and they
Yeah.
like soccer. But apparently basketball is getting huge in New Zealand. So how did you start playing basketball?
So my mum, she played basketball for the University of Gonzaga in Washington.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And so I think my school, my elementary school was offering it like just kind of saying, who wants to go play basketball? And I just thought, I'll give it a shot. And my mum, even though she was a pretty good player, told me nothing. So I was running around the court, traveling all over the place, didn't know any of the rules. And then I kind of just kept playing and just found the love for it and just continued pushing it.
Right. Now, is your mother New Zealand as well? Is she from New
He's
Zealand?
American. So my mom whole side's American and my father whole side is New Zealand.
Okay, how did your mother get to New Zealand?
She met my dad online, which is quite crazy because back in the day that wasn't something
Yeah.
you would do. And my dad was working in America and they met up at the time and then they fell in love and she moved with him to New Zealand.
Well, does she like it there?
Yeah, she loves it. She
Yeah.
loves it. Great.
And
Great.
you've never lived in America until you came to play at South Lakes?
No, my parents had me in America when I was, oh, I think I was 7 months old, and then I moved over to New Zealand. So I
Okay.
didn't really live here properly until last year.
Yeah, okay. So my son was a pretty good soccer player, and we used to go over to Holland for a few weeks a year, and he would train with his team. And at the same time, there'd be some American teams playing basketball against the Dutch kids. But it was interesting. Like 90% of the athletic Dutch kids played soccer. Basketball was more of like almost a rec sport, even though they had a form of Dutch basketball. I forgot what it's called. But what about in New Zealand? Do you guys have travel leagues and do you have a good coaching there for young kids?
Yeah, so how it works in New Zealand is you play for your school, region, and then if you're fortunate enough, you play for your country. So I was fortunate enough that I played all three. And kind of how that works is if you play well in your school ball, you get to go up and to play for your region. And if you do well in that, you get to play for your country. So that's kind of how it works. And I was fortunate enough that I played for New Zealand under 15. So we got to travel to Guam and we played Australia, Guam, Micronesia, like a bunch of countries. And then we came second in that and we qualified. And then we went to where was it? Qatar. And
Wow.
so we played a bunch of countries in Qatar, and we got second in that again, and we qualified for the World Cup.
Wow. So you played in the under 15 World Cup?
Yeah,
Oh, that's an amazing. Where was that?
that was in Guam. That
Oh,
was
that
in
was
Guam.
okay. That was in Guam.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in New Zealand, if you're a good player, do you play for your college? Do they have college basketball, or that's not a thing? And
What they do is they kind of have like it's kind of like the NBA for New Zealand, but they get players really young. Like one of my teammates who I played with was playing professional basketball 16, 17. And I was lucky enough that I didn't get playing time or anything, but I was just around the team. So I saw what it was like to kind of be a professional athlete sort of thing.
yeah, I know one New Zealand team. It's the Wellington Saints. They're good,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've won all the championships. So when did you know that you were going to be a good player? I guess because your mom was probably tall. Did you
Yeah.
So you probably were taught at a young age at that point. You
Yeah,
knew
I've
basketball
always,
could be,
yeah.
yeah, it could be your sport.
Yeah, so I was always quite tall growing up. Like I was always quite 2 or 3 inches above everyone.
Mhm.
And so that made it a lot easier. And then it was always my dream to play in America. So it was kind of just maturing and getting better and better every year at basketball to the point where it was like he's not getting better in New Zealand. We need to send him over, sort of thing.
Right. So when you're on like in the national pool and you're getting exposure, are you getting really good coaching as well? And are those American coaches or those New Zealand coaches that you guys have?
They're New Zealand coaches, but they're top level New Zealand coaches. They're coaches that play like coach professional teams and coach really high leagues. So we're getting some of the best coaching we can get. So we're very fortunate for that.
Right. And did you play rugby or any other sport while you're growing
Yeah, I
up?
played soccer, rugby, and I did a little bit of swimming.
Do
I
you
did a
know
bit.
the Maori dance before?
Yeah, yeah,
So you could do that before. That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. But you were never serious. I mean, you've gotten really big. I've noticed you put on some weight this year. But you probably weren't. You were pretty thin when you got here. So maybe were you too thin to be a serious rugby player in New Zealand?
Yeah, I just loved basketball. Like I played rugby for a while because I did enjoy that, but my love was always for basketball.
Right.
And so I wasn't really too keen on putting on weight at a young age. But over this off season after we won states, it was a big focus of mine to put on a lot of weight because I was still quite thin, like you said.
Yeah, you're a thin guy. So when was the decision made to come to America and also to come to South Lakes?
Oh, it was crazy. In New Zealand, I was at a boarding school. So my mum kind of did all the behind scenes work. She knows people and she knew that the DMV was where I wanted to be if I wanted to succeed. And so she just kind of did everything behind the scenes. And then I get a call and from my mum, she was like, "You're leaving in a week." So I had a week to say goodbye to everyone. And I was just on a plane.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're by yourself here in America? Your parents are still in New Zealand?
Yeah. Both parents are still in New Zealand. My whole family's in New Zealand. I'm living with a host family. Yeah.
Oh, what? So how was that going with the host family?
Oh, they're great. I couldn't ask for better people. They're amazing. They've helped me so much.
And do you miss New Zealand?
Oh, of course. I miss all my friends, obviously, and I miss my family,
Yeah.
but I'm quite enjoying it over here.
Yeah. So are the kids different here? I mean, like in New Zealand, are kids stuck on their phone all day long, or are kids the same everywhere, or do you find kids different here in America?
I would say the difference is New Zealand's schooling is a lot more strict. So the school that I went to, uniform 5 days a week. You had to have your hair a certain length and color and everything, and no phones at all, or you'd get a detention. And they were just very strict. So there wasn't many people like on your phones, like screen ages, like there are in America, I would say. So there was a lot more communication. I feel like I built a lot of social abilities in New Zealand just because you weren't allowed your phone.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm going to embarrass my kids here, but I have my two oldest kids are in college, and every once in a while I ask, have you seen so and so that played soccer or something? And they may say, yeah, I see them. I said, well, how's he doing? I said, I don't know. I says, well, you see them and you don't talk to them? I said, well, we're not friends. Americans, because of their phones and stuff, they don't just socialize randomly like I had to when I was a kid. And I feel like that's one thing that we're missing. You have your little core group of friends, but you don't like say hi to people only kind of know. I think in some ways Americans are kind of behind socially. So you've noticed kind of the same thing, or is that because you went to a prep school, or is that because New Zealand's different generally?
I think that it's a bit of both. Like, I feel like boarding, you really have to step out of your shell because you're pretty much just thrown into an environment where it's like you're on your own, sort of thing. Like, you kind of just have to mature really quickly. But then also, like, the phones, like you said, like, a lot of people, like, just walking through the hallways at school, people were just on their phones. And I think Virginia schools are trying to shut down the phone usage, which I've noticed, which I think is great for teachers and students.
Yeah. How about and you don't have to tell on yourself here, but do kids? I would think kids in New Zealand would party more than kids here, because we always we always make fun of Australians for being, kind of partiers. I don't know about New Zealanders, but do kids party the same in both countries, or is it a little bit different here?
Yeah, I think the cultures are quite similar in terms of partying. Like they're both quite party hardy countries. Yeah, I wasn't really a party guy myself. I was more focused on sport, but a lot of my mates, they were party, 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 going crazy.
Yeah. So when I grew up, I went to Robinson in Fairfax,
Mhm.
and at the time, um, Virginia was very segregated, and most African Americans lived in the city towards the city,
Mhm.
and then they started. My family was the first Black family to live in Lake Braddock, which is a huge subdivision, but Reston was a planned city, and they had an idea to create this community folks of different socioeconomics, different races. And Reston is a very special place. There's not many places like Reston. I think race relations are generally good. No place is perfect. Now I know you grew up in New Zealand and you guys have a very interesting relationship with, I guess I want to say this right. Maori, you say, is it
The
Maori?
Maori people, yeah,
Maori
yeah.
people. And I know in Australia it's Aborigines. Do you see racial tensions here that you also saw in New Zealand? Are those kind of things that you think about while you're here?
Um, I think it's quite similar. Like, there's not too many differences because I think we don't have many African American people in New Zealand. Like, there's not many. So, Maori people are kind of like our African American people, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, I think it's quite similar to the cultures and how things are here and there. I think there's not too many differences being here.
Yeah. And do they make an effort to get the Maoris part in a better schools? And is there
Yep.
a interchange when they're trying to assimilate more, or is it the tension of the old days?
I think that in schools, like how I was brought up, the Maori culture was quite pushed into school and education just so people understood it, which I quite like. Like we learned how to speak their language,
Is that
we
right?
learned all this sort
Okay.
of stuff. And I think that's great because I feel like in America, Black history culture isn't kind of really pushed as much.
Mhm.
Like you kind of have to like take African American history to learn about a lot of it.
Mhm.
Whereas in New Zealand, it's fully pushed because they want you to understand the culture that we have in New Zealand, which is probably my favorite part of New Zealand, just the culture that they have there.
Yeah. No, I don't want you to piss off any of your fans, but do you find our politics hard to understand here? Because I would think, being from New Zealand, and you came here during an election year, and then a change of administration. This whole thing seemed kind of strange and strange to you.
It's a little different. I would definitely say it's a little different with how the politics are. But luckily, last year I took a government course, so I
Mhm.
kind of like wrapped my head a bit more around like the House and the Senate and what all that means and what they do, that sort of thing. So I'm fortunate for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, getting back to basketball, last year you guys had a very stacked team. I mean, Coach Desmond he had 15 players that could contribute. It was very frustrating, I'm sure. And a lot of your games, your team was so strong, you had a lot of blowouts. Um, was there frustration for you at times because you probably wanted to do more and you've competed at a very high level?
Oh, of course. The start of the season, I obviously was frustrated because everyone wants to play, but we sat down as a team and we kind of just talked about like if we want to win, because I knew coming straight away that we had a good shot to win it just from the outside voices and what Des was saying and the people I was around. Like we were one of the favorites to win for sure.
For sure.
And so we kind of just talked about playing roles and I kind of just bought into my role off the bench. And as soon as everyone bought into their roles, we were like this, we were tight. Everyone was doing their job.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like the fact that you were trained and raised in the basketball culture of New Zealand, does it make you very unique as a player? I mean, I know you're taller than most of the kids and strong, and you can vertical dunk in traffic, which I don't see kids do every day. But technique and the way you play, do you feel like you're different because you're from overseas?
I think yes. I think fundamentally yes. I New Zealand is very offensive driven, And so we're a lot on the passing, fundamentals, running plays, that sort of thing, and just reading. New Zealand's a lot of read. So reading what the defenders do, how to play out of that, how to score out of that. But the thing that shocked me the most coming here was defense is everything here. Like, especially with Coach Des, like defense, defense, defense. And so just little things like taking your man away, like not letting him catch the ball. Like I was never taught those stuff. So it was a learning curve for me for sure.
Yeah, I did notice that your defense has really improved with each time you step on the court. So I can understand. Just real quickly, I forgot to ask you, did you have a New Zealand hero growing up, that a basketball player there, or most of the, basketball heroes, American heroes, like, like LeBron James or whoever?
I would say my New Zealand basketball hero would probably be Steven Adams. He plays
Yeah.
for the Houston Rockets at the moment. And just because he kind of made me realize that there was a pathway there because New Zealand, he was like our first like NBA player. So that was an inspiration to a lot of kids because we just realized we can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's the other guy from Australia, Patty. What's his
Patty
Patty?
Mills.
Patty. He's really,
Yeah.
really good
Yeah,
player as well.
he's
I'm,
amazing.
I'm not sure. Do New Zealand and Australians, you guys share a lot of culture? Is there a good relationship between the two
Yeah,
countries?
I think we do share a lot of cultures, but there's also a lot of banter there. Like whenever New Zealand plays Australia in something, everyone's watching. Both countries are backing it, but we're cool with Australia. They're cool with
Yeah.
us. We're like the little brother sort of thing.
Yeah. Except for when rugby season
Oh,
happens.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, getting back to basketball, what did you think of Jordan Scott when you first met him? Now, here's a guy whose parents were South Lakes legends, and Jordan's the kind of guy who can go to any school and he wanted to, but he loyal to his teammates and his coach and his school, and he helped lead you guys to a state championship. What did you think about Jordan when you first met him? Was he an easy guy to get to know and to integrate into his team?
Yeah, Jordan's a great dude. Me and him are quite close. We've grown quite a lot over this year, just because of all the seniors have left. We've kind of grown together, and me getting a bigger role. We've quite grown together. And Jordan's very laid back, very chill, nice guy.
Yeah,
Like I don't know if I can say anything bad about him. Like he's a great dude.
yeah,
And on a basketball level, I'm blessed to be playing with him just because he's a four-star Michigan State commit. Like, and I'm going against him every day in practice. I'm watching how he practices, how he warms up. Like I'm just kind of understanding him and like what I have to do to get to the level he's at, sort of thing.
yeah. What are some of the things you've learned from him, from watching him, from playing with him?
I would say the main thing is just patience. Like he's very good at being patient with the ball and just breathing. Because when I first started playing for South Lakes, I was all over the show. Whereas when I watched him play, he was always just calm. And that's something that I try and put into my game, is just taking a breath and just
Yeah.
chilling out.
So my son was home from school, and we went to the Yorktown game over
Yeah.
the holidays. And you had a great game, and it was a good time for you to have a great game because it was a bunch of South Lakes alumni, great players that came to watch, and they were all just loved the things that you were doing. And Jordan, it was great because, and my son pointed this out. He said, Jordan's not even worried about it. Most guys with like a superstar type ego would have a hard time dealing with someone else kind of stealing the show. And he didn't even try to interrupt, and he didn't have to get his 25 or whatever. He just played within himself. When you guys needed a basket, he did. I think it's kind of that patience and the humility, and also the confidence that makes him so great.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that we both just like whenever one of us is hot, we'll do anything to get that person the ball. Like Jordan's had like the Woodson game. He had
Yeah.
like 35 points, like five threes in the first quarter. And we were just give him the ball, let
Yeah.
him do him. And we just have that relationship where if one of us is on, you just give the person the ball. And that's what I love about him. And what I think colleges really like about him is he very, very teamwork player. Like he's very into the team. He'd rather team success than his own success.
Yeah. One of my other favorite players from that team was Brian Kennedy. I don't know if you're an American football fan, but Brian is a tremendous football player. But then in basketball, he's like this underrated guy. He's not quite tall enough. He's not the greatest shooter in the world, but he just finds a way to win. I just think he's a tremendous player. How did you enjoy playing with Brian?
I love playing with Brian. He was really good for me because he was a monster on defense. So going against that every practice, I was just getting better and better and understanding because he was the defensive player in our district, and I'm not too sure about our region, but he was definitely there.
Yeah.
And just going against him every practice just really helped my game a lot. And the thing I love about Brian is, like you said, he always just wants to win, and he'll do whatever it takes to win. Very, very competitive person.
Yeah, he's a very underrated player. In my day, he would have been appreciated a little bit more because I played before the three pointers, and the point guard was so much more important then. It's important now, but all they really look at are three pointers for guards. So
Yeah.
that's like the first thing they look at. And Brian is a very special player, and I hope he's doing well in college. One more guy that I'm sure beat the crap out of you last year is Aiden Billings. Aiden was a tremendous basketball player his sophomore year, and he was a great role player. You know, he got big because he was working on his football. What was it like having Aiden beat up on you in practice every day?
Aiden was kind of our vocal guy. Like if someone wasn't doing their job in practice or kind of half-assing a drill, he'd be on you, screaming at you the whole practice. So
Is
that's
that
what I
right?
loved about him. He was like the coach on the floor
Yeah.
for us, and that's what I loved about him. And yeah, he's huge in practice, so it's hard to guard him in the post. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish you could have seen him play his sophomore year. But he was like, you know, he had his basketball legs back then. He was a different player,
Yeah.
but a very important part of the state championship. So, you know, Merrick, you've played in some big games around the world. Uh, how would you compare that stage in Richmond at the state championship VCU? Did it remind you of your days playing for New Zealand? Was it that kind of energy in the building?
Yeah, kind of. I feel like a couple of the finals games I played for New Zealand kind of reminded me of that just because there's nothing like playing a finals game, just
Yeah.
nervous to the max and just being really excited the whole day, weeks before the game's even played. So I think that reminded me of that. And just the environment as well quite reminded me of that.
Right. So last year you definitely had to pay your dues. You had to sit some, you had to watch some. You improved defensively. What are some of the other things that you improved on? Are there things that do you think if you would have stayed in Australia and stayed in the in the national pool, you could have had the same improvement, or do you think you took bigger strides by coming here for that junior year?
I
I'm
think,
sophomore year.
yeah, I think coming here was probably the best thing for me just because I got to the point in New Zealand where I wasn't improving much. Like I've got to the stage where, you need someone to push you. You need people in practice to push you, players to push you. And New Zealand was just not doing that for me at the time. And yeah, I think that's what I needed is just that push.
Right. Was there anything technically like about your game offensively that changed last year, or it was more on the defensive side, and then you know in the summertime you worked on your body?
I think I think defensively was the main thing as well as shooting. Like because the balls are different here as well as the line's different. So in New Zealand, we play the college line, whereas here we play a high school line. So I had to adjust to that because in New Zealand, you get ripped a new one if you shot a long two. So I never practiced that shot. So just getting used to being able to shoot from that range and with the balls are quite different because we use FIBA balls. So just getting used to the balls and the 3 point line was a main thing that I focused on in the off season.
Yeah. Well, so you must have been really excited. Did you get a chance to play AAU last summer, or did you go back to
Yeah.
New Zealand? You did.
Yeah, I
Okay.
played AAU. Yeah.
Who'd you play with? Did you play with Jordan on that
I played
team?
for the Washington Warriors.
Okay. Washington Warriors. Okay.
Yeah. So that
How
was
did that go?
now. Pardon?
How did that go?
It went pretty good. I think the team didn't go as good as we wanted to, but I feel like we had some really good games. Like we had some games where we beat some really good top recruits, which we're proud of. But overall, I think we had a lot of injuries, a lot of players coming in and out.
Yeah.
So I think we should have done better, but I'm still happy with the result. It was the first time playing it, so I was still quite new to it.
All in all, what did you think about the AAU experience? Is it important? Do you think it's a little bit strange? Parents screaming, What'd you think about the AAU experience all in
I
all?
definitely think it's a crazy experience. Like it's nothing like AAU season. Like I remember walking in, you see this five-star recruit, this player, and you're just going court to court, going, "Wow, this is awesome."
Wow.
But yeah, it is definitely hectic, definitely crazy, and I think I really learned from it playing against some of the best players. I definitely learned from that and understanding how to up my game to the next level, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, coming into this season, it's very surprising because if you're on Jordan Scott's team, you're going to have college scouts in the building every night. But that being said, you lost Rochester, you lost Saul Vida, two really good players that had a lot of experience. Uh, did you enjoy the prospect of having a much bigger role? Because if they're there, you're still going to be one of the top players, but it's more sharing. But with them gone, your role became even bigger. Did you look forward to that prospect?
Of course, like everyone wants the one of the star roles on the team, so I was really looking forward to it. Yeah, and like you said, I'm blessed to have Jordan on my team just because I get the opportunities to have college coaches in my game every day, which a lot of schools wouldn't have. So stepping into that role was definitely an adjustment, but I'm very happy that I have this role.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed quickly is, I mean, you're having a fantastic season. You've exploded this year. Jordan's just doing his thing. I don't know if he could have gotten much better from last year, without just scoring every time he has the ball. He's definitely doing his thing. But I feel like your role players, the other starters, and even the bench is really come on. I know Kemmerer, his dad was John Kemmerer. I can't think of his name. I thought he had a great game against Yorktown. I know you had the two brothers who transferred from Dunbar that seem to be getting comfortable. I think is it Toshi or Yoshi? Toshi.
Toshi,
Toshi.
Toshi,
I
yeah,
think Toshi gives you a lot of solid minutes as well. I really feel like the team is really rounded into form.
yeah. No, we're doing really great. Like last year, everyone's just kind of bought into their role.
Mhm.
Like CJ is one of those players where he wouldn't really stand out to you, but you look on the stat sheet and you go, he's got 14 points. Like he's put in an impact, and all he does to score is just cut. Like he's just one of those players that just knows where to be, and that's the same as Toshi. Like they both just understand basketball and where to be, and they're always in the right spots.
Yeah. It's interesting about you guys as well, though, is because you're not the quickest team in the world. Um, but you play well against quick teams because I think you guys are really long. I mean, you and Jordan have extremely long arms, so that gets in the passing lanes. I feel like you guys play really well against really fast teams. That's not like a real weakness for you guys.
Yeah, I feel like we're really good at speeding teams up, and even the fast teams, like speeding them up even more, making them take shots that we would consider bad shots. And then what I love about our team is we're very patient. Like I said before, like we just chill out, run our set, and just keep running our set because luckily there's no shot clock, so we can just keep running our set until we get something we like.
Yeah. So you had a really big win against Woodson early, destroyed them, beat Patriot pretty easily as well. Hayfield was tough. They've been to the I think state tournament Final Four, I think the last 4 years, but they've won it two of the last 3 years. So a team with a lot of experience, a lot of pride in the program. That was a game. You guys didn't have your best game. What happened in your eyes in the Hayfield game?
I feel like as a team, we came into that game with a bit too much confidence. I feel like we came off the Woodson win, we came off quite a few wins, and we were just kind of overconfident going into that game. And I feel like we kind of needed that loss just to put things back into perspective that we're not this awesome, awesome team. Like we
Yeah.
need to buy in that every game we need to take like it's every game's the same sort of thing,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Well, you beat Largo recently, and Largo is the kind of team that you'd have to beat to win a state championship. But they got a 4-star recruit as well. Cam Ward's his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great player. Jordan's future teammate. But I think are rated slightly ahead of you in the Washington Post. I didn't get a chance to see that game. Tell us, and I know it was a 1 point result. Tell us about that game.
I think that game we started off really slow and we kind of let them physically beat us in the first quarter. And Diz had a good speech to us after the first quarter that we just kind of need to man up. And I think once we bought into that and trying to shut Cam down because he's their Jordan, so we kind of had to shut him down and focus a lot on that. And I think once we bought into that, we made a run and we brought the game back together. And I think at the end of the game, we sadly lost. I feel like we needed to play a bit smarter, and that's on me, the whole team. I feel like we just needed to calm down, which we didn't do. I feel like we kind of rushed the last minute when we had the lead. We should have just chilled out.
Yeah. Well, then this weekend you got a huge win against Maury, and you were down for part of the game. I was watching online. Maury's one of the oldest high schools in the state. They've won numerous state championships. You know, they won football this year as well. Just a great sports tradition. Very physical team historically. Tell us a little bit about the Maury game.
Yeah, that game we had to adjust a bit. I feel like we kind of went into the game not knowing what to expect. We've never come down to Virginia Beach. We didn't know much about this team. So it was just kind of adjusting on the fly. So, and just understanding like things like the refs were letting a lot go that game, I felt like. So just adjusting to that as well as adjusting to who can shoot, who can't shoot. And so I feel like that game was a very, very adjustment based game for both teams.
Yeah. And then there was some drama after the game or something. I read online that some of the crowd got angry. What happened after the game?
I just heard that Jordan's mum, Christy, I just heard
Oh,
her and a couple fans maybe got into it, but I was
oh,
I was quite focused on the game. I just heard
oh.
that after the game and didn't
Yeah.
know really.
I'm glad it all worked out. So you mentioned the officials in that game. Generally, is the officiating in America much different than it is that you've seen around in New Zealand, but also international ball?
Yeah, it's a lot more professional here, I feel like. Like for our games, we'd sometimes have 15-year-old kids riffing our games. Whereas you'd have people that are experienced refs, have
Yeah.
done it forever, and call a lot more. Like I had to adjust. Like I traveled quite a lot when I first came, just because they didn't call it in New Zealand. So just adjusting to that sort of thing.
That's interesting. So Merrick, South Lakes is in a Concord district, and it's got great rivalries. Like South Lakes Madison is a traditional rivalry. South Lakes Westfield, South Lakes Centerville, South Lakes Herndon. Oh, Herndon's not in the district anymore, but they're huge rivalries. Do they mean anything to you, being from New Zealand? Do you feel the energy from those rivalries, or it's just like another basketball game to you because you're not really from here?
Nah, I do feel the rivalries. I do because in New Zealand we had those same rivalries whenever we'd have rugby on Saturdays. Like I understand the whole thing and just coming to South Lakes and just being told like how big this game is, how big this rivalry is, how much this means to the school. Because the school's kind of like family. Like you understand how big this rivalry is, so you gotta step up and play well.
Yeah. So got a big game on Friday tomorrow against Westfield. I definitely will be there for that. And you got a couple of tough games left, this year. But generally, when you're a team of South Lakes caliber, you're going to have some games that you win very easily. How do you keep your concentration going when realistically you can win by 30 points? Do you try to accomplish certain things in a game, or what do you do to try to keep your concentration level high?
I think that with our team is something that Diz and our assistant coach Damon Johnson say a lot is just don't get bored with what works. And let's say if we are blowing a team out, we'll kind of run different stuff, maybe get in the groove with different things, try and see combinations work. So when we do have a blowout, it's quite good for us, I feel like, because we learn how to play with different players or learn how to run different actions, what reads we can make out of different actions. So I do think that helps us kind of keep our concentration.
Yeah. Do you ever look ahead and start getting excited about the postseason tournaments?
Oh yeah, for sure. I love
Yeah.
it. I love all those like my favorite thing is the big games when both teams crowds will come out and it's
Yeah.
loud, you can barely hear anything. Those are the best environments.
South Lakes is a great environment for a tournament game. It's the perfect size. It's big enough but not too big. You have the noise. The rims there are really tight. I feel I feel you really have to be a great shooter to shoot well at South Lakes. Well, we don't have to look ahead this year because I know you want to take it one game at a time. But I did want to ask you about some of your long-term goals. Obviously, you're a Division One prospect. Anyone who doesn't think so should come watch you play. Um, have you thought at all about the next level, the kind of schools you'd want to go to, or have you been thinking about college basketball already?
Yeah, it's my dream to play college basketball. I would absolutely love to do that. And just being with people like Jordan has helped me understand like how to be a college player
Mhm.
and what sort of things I have to do. But I'm kind of open to playing anywhere. Like I just kind of want to go whatever the best fit for me is and whatever makes me happy.
Yeah. Do you think there's a chance you can get one of your New Zealand friends to come transfer to South Lakes next year and help you out?
I mean, if we can get that to work, I would love to do that for sure.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, look, Merrick, this has been great. I've really enjoyed watching your development. Probably you always had it in you. It was just a matter of getting comfortable with our game, getting stronger. I can only imagine, how good you're going to be. Uh, last question. When you think about next year, and assuming we certainly hope you're at South Lakes. Do you like the prospect of you kind of being the Jordan Scott figure on the team and kind of being the leader of the team and kind of being responsible, for the overall success of the team?
Yeah, I would love to do that for sure. That's what any basketball player wants. They want to be the head honcho. They want to be the top guy, and so I would love to do that, obviously. And obviously, that's a lot of adjusting to do. And luckily, I've learned from some of the best with Jordan on how to do that and how to be a team player as well as know when to get yours.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes getting yours is being a team player. I think what Michael Jordan say? There's no I in team, but there's an I in win.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah. So look, America, it's great to meet you. Thanks for doing this on short notice, and best of luck the rest of the season. And I look forward to watching you guys play tomorrow night.
yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. Nice to meet you
And,
too. Thank you.